Hi there, my name is Sheila, and I'm going to show you how to make a basic flower box. I went and bought some 1x4s, and like I said in my last video, the exact measurement is a 1/2 inch by 3.5 inches. So let's get going. I start off, the end pieces, like this one, are 12 inches. So I'll put in length, and then the side pieces, like that one there, are 2 inches, or excuse me, 2 feet. So the box is going to be approximately 2 by 1 feet wide, and that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these pieces together, and there are certain things you can do. I'm not doing it with this one because it's quite narrow. The glue will hold it beautifully. And as you can take a nail and hammer it in like this. Make a little notch, but have it hammered in, and then take your next board on top and hammer that on top of the nail, just to make little notches along the way. And then you can drill holes and put little wooden dowels in there to secure it with the gluing. But I've done some like that, and I also done some tongue and groove like that, but it's a lot of work, and I find the glue holds just as well. And when you're putting it together, you're putting a screw in every piece of wood, so even if the glue fails somewhere, it will still be secure. So let's get going. So for the first part, I'm just going to put a bead of glue along there. You don't need it overkill. And once you put the other board on top, it's going to disperse the glue. Or you can just kind of disperse it yourself. So there will be some runouts, and that's fine. You just wipe it off, and at the end of once the boards are together and dry, you sand it anyway. So if there's any glue that comes out, you'll be sanding that off. So I'm going to take that one. I cut these, 2 of them, and then one I cut in half lengthwise, and that gives you, it'll be 8 3/4 in depth. You could put all 3 like that together, and which would give you 10.5 inches. It depends on what you're planting at and what you want to do with your box and that. So you can go whatever depth you want. This is a nice depth for me. So I put the glue on the bottom one, and then I just take the top one and sit it on top like that. And then I take some little clamps. Gotta be a little bit faster, but I've only got one hand here. So you make sure that they're even at the end as best as you can. Because with the glue on, it's going to slide. It's going to do things you don't want it to do until you get it clamped up like that. And then you do the other side. Sorry about that. The same way, just put the clamp on. You want to try to make sure you're in the middle of the line, the joining part of the two boards, so they're being held. Okay. They're being okay, so there, like that. See, I got the clamp on the two lines where the glue is. See how the glue is running out? That's fine. Like I said, you just give it a wipe. And it also helps fill in that crack, eh? You can use paper towel, but like, it's over there and I'm here, and so anyway, so take the other side, do the same. Then at least you don't got lumps that'll take more sanding. So that's how I have it done. And then you just take the glue again, put another bead on top. Like so. And take your last board. And if you got little notches like that's a knot, part of it jumped out. It's not a big deal. You put it on the inside so you don't see it from the outside. And because the inside's going to be full of dirt, so you're not going to, eventually, you won't see it. So let's get this one on. Make sure when you're doing this too that you're using a good quality glue. I use Gorilla wood glue, love it, wouldn't use anything else. I have tried some wood, other wood glues, it just doesn't even match up. So now that I got all four clamps on that way, it helps. Now just turn it like that. Wipe off any excess glue again. So see that hole there is going to be fine. Then I take a longer clamp like this. And I put it on crossways. And you put it on snug, but not too snug because you don't want your wood to bend. So, just like that. I don't know how well you can see that, but... And then you just put it aside and start on the next end or the sides. So the longer piece is the same thing. You put that bead of glue down and you set this one on top. You want to make sure the ends are even like that. And sometimes, you know, like, we're not perfect. I wish we were, and we don't live in a perfect world. So sometimes one piece might be a couple millimeters longer. Not a big deal. At the end, once it's all glued and stuck, you can just put it through the saw and just edge it a bit there. So there I did a side, a long one, and clamped it up. Now I'll turn it around and put the cross clamp on. So there, I put the cross clamp on like that. And like I said, you put it on quite snug. If the bead of glue starts to come out, you know you got it tight enough. So I'll just put this one to the side and do the other end and the other side. So here you go. The sides and ends are all glued and dry. I usually let it dry overnight or at least a few hours. If I'm really busy, I'll give it a couple hours and I'll be doing something else while these pieces are drying. But yeah, give it a couple good hours and you can tell. You don't need to leave the clamps on overnight, but I usually do if I'm going to be doing overnight. But I only have so many clamps, so I can do 2 ends on one side or vice versa at a time, because that takes 5, 10, 15 clamps. And believe me, you want to use clamps. Anyways, now I'm just gonna give it a good sanding, the ends and the sides. And see this yellow? That's the dry glue. So we're gonna sand that right off, and it'll look really good. I first start with my orbital sander with 120 grit. Especially this wood, because it's really nice wood. There's not a lot of flaws in it. So I'll do 120 grit, and then I go over it again with 220 grit, and it makes it all so nice and smooth. So I'll do this up, really concentrate on the glue parts, but it doesn't take long, and then we will move on to the next step. So now I have the sides and the ends all sanded nicely. As you can see, you don't see those lines of glue on the wood anymore. And it went together pretty nice, I have to say. So next thing is you take the two sides, sorry about that, and you make sure they're the same length and the same width, because you don't want one longer than the other, because then that just causes a lot of problems in the future. And you do the same with the ends, because sometimes you might have to trim a little off or whatever, so you need these to be pretty much exact. But in the perfect world, since it's not perfect, it's not always going to be exact. So a little bit of trimming sometimes, but these turned out actually quite good. I'm quite proud. So the next step is you can either just leave the boards as they are and join them together with glue and screws, or what I'm going to do with this box is the end pieces, I'm going to cut a very small angle to them. It's a 5-degree angle. So, and I use the shorter board, like you got your two full-size boards, and then the shorter board as the bottom. So this board will be, width will be smaller than the top board. It'll look almost like a triangle, but you know, one with a flat top, not to a point. And I'll do that with both these pieces of wood. Now, if you don't have a miter saw or anything like that, a saw like this, that can cut the angles, don't worry about it, just make it square. It's not that big of a deal. So as you can see, I set my saw up to be 5 degrees this way. So this end piece, I'm going to start right at the corner there, and it's going to go smaller on the smaller piece of wood. And I'll do that on both sides. And just be careful that you have this cut going like where they're from large to small on both sides, because I've cut it where I had the boards going the same way, and yeah, it's just a mess. So I'll get this cut up and I'll show you the end product. I don't want to cut it while I'm on video because the saws and other machinery in here can get quite loud and really distort the video. So there you have it. I did the 5 degree cut. It's not really all that noticeable on tape, but yeah, this one end is quite a bit smaller than the other end. Well, not quite a bit, probably maybe a half an inch or so. And then again, after I did both boards, I matched them up to make sure they're the same width and angle and everything, and everything looks good. It fits in there good together. So now what I'll do is I'll sand off the ends, because you get sometimes those little hairy things from the board. I call them hairy things anyways. And so I get that all sanded off. So now that it's all sanded off and that, I decided to do a rounded edge cut on the top of the board just to make it look nice and smooth, and it's a nice little design. I made another box like this. It's down there, and I forgot to router it before I put it together, so I could only do the outside, and it was pretty difficult doing that whole box on the router, but I did get it done. But this one, I got both sides done, so it's nice and rounded on it. So now I'm going to put some glue, a thin layer of glue on the end here, and attach it to the side. So I put a thin layer of glue and I rubbed it down. I don't want glue squirting out. And I put a clamp there just to hold it while I'm making drill holes and putting in the screws. You want to make sure that it's totally flush with the end of your sideboard here. And I'll put the screws in here, and I'll put one in each board to hold it all together and move on to the next one. So I did the same to this end as the other end. Put a thin layer of glue on the side, and I will attach it to the edge like this, get everything lined up, and put the clamp on. So now I got both ends screwed on to the one side. So now this end, this side, will be easier to put on because you just lay it on top. After you put glue on the two ends, then you just lay this one on top and screw it in. So I put glue on the end of this one, and I put the box or this side on, and you line it all up in that, get everything screwed in. As you can see, this one's in a little bit. All I have to do is, once I get that part stabilized, I'll put on a clamp and it'll pull this one back and it'll attach to that. I'll show you when I'm done. So as you can see, I put a clamp on, and I didn't clamp it onto this part of the wood, just to the top. So pulled the top back, and I put a thin layer of glue on there, and I pulled the top back enough where I could hold it and quickly put in an anchor screw, so now the clamp can come off and I can finish screwing up the other two boards. So there you have it. The sides are put on now and the ends. So the next step is to put on the bottom. You can lay boards across if you want. What I've been doing is cutting them and putting them inside because of the little bit of an angle. I cut each end on a different 5-degree angle than these ones, and slide them in and secure them with a screw. So that's what I'll do next. I'll measure the inside, which will be this board, for the length, and then cut the pieces I need in there. I usually use an old 2x4. I plane it down to just under an inch and put it in, because for one, it's the bottom, and you got to drill holes in it for drainage, and once the dirt's in there, you're never going to see it. So usually once I start planing my older 2x4s, they do come out looking pretty good. So it's not like I'm putting crap, broken pieces of wood in there. I'm just not going to use the good wood like this for the bottom, which you'll never see. So now I planed this board down to about 3/4 of an inch long. And this part that I had changed to 5-degree angle over here for the end pieces, I put back to 0. And now it's this part I moved to 5 degrees. So now, as you can see, I got the blade just slightly tilted on the 5 degrees. I cut this end off already, and so I'll flip it around like this, measure it up, and cut it again so that this length will be 10 1/4. The other side will be a little bit longer. As you can see that how it goes like that. You want it to go like that. So as you can see, that fits in there nice and snugly. Snugly? I don't know, is that a word? Snuggles? Snug? Really nice and snug anyways. So I'll continue cutting the boards all the way to that end. Usually I need about 6 of that width and then a narrow one. Usually takes about 7 boards, but one is maybe 2 inches wide. Then once I get them all in, I'll secure them with a screw on each end. And this I made a little bit thicker, then the screw supports it so much more better, and it's bearing all the weight. So now I have 3 boards in so far, and it's lined up to the sides really nice. They fit together really nice and snug, and I'll just continue doing it until I'm done. And there you go. The bottom's all done. Like I said, it usually takes about 6.5 pieces. I secure it in with 1 screw on each end, and then I drill holes in it for drainage. Now all we have left is the feet and the handles. We have to decide on how we're going to do that, and then we clear coat it with Thompson water seal and wait for it to dry. Oh, unless you want something written on it, like some boxes I made will say welcome across there, or others can say home sweet home, flowers, whatever you want to write on there, and then you would clear coat it with the Thompson water seal. Okay, so now I am going to drill drainage holes in this. So I put on a bigger bit, and it gives a hole this size. And I'll put 3, 2, 3, 2. Just stagger it like that. And you know, put in a few because they're drainage holes, and some might get plugged up with the dirt and that, but as long as there's something, the water will come through. So I put in my drainage holes. I went 3, 2, 3, all the way down. And you know, like the wood, some of it has a little space in between, and that will be that'll be drainage too. Not a lot of space, but there is some, and it's all good. Now I'm gonna put on the legs and the handles, and I'll show you the clear coat. So what I did was I cut 4 blocks and put them on each corner, and I'll attach them, and those will be the legs. So that gives you some ground clearance. And then I had a 2x4 that I had planed down and everything, nice and smooth. And I cut the handles out of that. Sanded them on my belt sander over there. Made them rounded so they don't cut into your hand when you're moving them and they're full of dirt. So they make cute little handles too. I try to change it up as much as I can. Every time I do a flower box, I'll put different footing on it, a different type of handle. Just so they're all kind of unique in its own way. Okay, so I got the legs on. I just cut up 4 square blocks and put them on. Now I'm gonna turn over the box and put on the handles. So when I put on the handles, I clamp it like that. Put the handles on. And that is kind of like my third hand. It gives me freedom to drill in my holes, and I go from the inside and screw in the screws. So that clamp is on there nice and tight to hold the handle on for me. So there, I got my handles on now, and all I need to do is coat it with Thompson water seal, and it will be done. It will be good to go. So when I'm doing this, I just use a little paint can thingy I buy at the dollar store or something, and there's a Thompson water seal. It looks like milk, and that. I always start on the bottom part of the box. I put it on quite easily. You just paint it on. Like that, and clean up your little messes. I really like this stuff. It really gives a nice protection against water. And you would treat this just as you would treat a deck or a fence, you know, every year or every couple years. whenever needed, you just put another treatment on. And you don't really need to, like, pour the stuff on. I always let it dry for at least 24 hours. And then I do the water test. I'll spray water from a water bottle onto it. And if it beads up, it's good. If it doesn't and kind of starts to soak into the wood, you need to put on another coat. A lot of times I put on 2 coats just to have it done really well. So yeah, like I said, you just paint it on and then flip the box over. But really get, like on the legs and that, the cut parts, and on the edges of your box, like that part, you would really want to coat really well. Because, well, they're open to the weather now, hey? So I'll just finish this one up. I'm just about done. The bottom here, and then I'll flip it over and I'll go from there. So now that I got it flipped over, I usually do the inside of the box and I just hang it on the side like that, so I have extra hands. Well, I guess I don't have extra hands, but you know, I get it done a lot easier. And like I said, I just put it on, you know, get in those cracks and crannies and corners and everything. This stuff, it's not like a stain or varathane, varnish, even epoxy. You don't need to worry about if there's a run. Because usually once you put it on, you kind of go over and smooth it all out anyways. But if there's a run, it doesn't dry like epoxy or varnish or paint. But it does pop out the wood more, the color and the grains, and I just think it's beautiful. So you can see the difference in the color already. So yeah, if you get a run like that, not a big deal, because like I say, you go over it with the paintbrush again anyways, especially when you're doing the corners, because you're doing the ends and then you're doing the sides, and well, they meet in those corners. Turn this around here, have it on my side. I'll do the inside on that side. And if you missed a spot, you usually can tell from the difference in the wood color. So then I get all the inside done. I'll do this other side in a minute. And then I do the outside, and like I said, just get the edges here really good, the cut parts. Make sure they get really good coverage. And let it soak in, and then just finish her up, because it's just the outside sides now, and the outside ends and the handles, and the one inside wall. But that's all I have to do for this video. I got another box over there to waterproof too. And once again, I would just like to thank Prince Albert Metis Women's Association, especially Darlene McKay and Noreen McBride, two really great ladies. They're very helpful. They run a lot of great programs for people and help out as much as they can. And yeah, doing these little videos for them is a pleasure. And I just want to say thanks to them, and thanks for everybody watching.